on. I'm gonna put my hair up. Okay, anyway. Hey, what's up, you guys? Today is November 2nd. Forgot what day it was, like usual. But I don't know if y'all know or not, but if you don't, November is Diabetes Awareness Month. And if y'all don't know, I'm a type 1 diabetic. And I was diagnosed 9 years ago in March, which is crazy to think about because it feels like it was just yesterday. When I was diagnosed, I was 11, and it was absolutely crazy. I wish I could say from the time that I was diagnosed to the time when I was discharged from the hospital that we would have had everything figured out, and the doctors would have been like, yep, this is exactly how you do things, this is how your body's gonna react to things, and this is just how your life's gonna be, and it'll be great. But in the end, diabetes is not that simple. So moving on, here is, and you already know from the title of this video, but here are 9 things that I've learned in 9 years of having diabetes. Also, if you're wondering why I'm wearing this makeup that looks horrible, because like this side, okay, this side is actually pretty good, but I added way too much blue on this side because like this side, like, you got a nice transition shade, you got the crease, you got the lid, but then yeah. Anyway, it's blue, and I'm wearing blue because the ribbon for diabetes is blue. Number 1, something that I wish endocrinologists and parents of type 1 diabetics would understand is that blood sugars will not be perfect 100% of the time. There are good days and there are bad days. And then there are just days where it's everywhere. It took me a lot of time to accept that. I always felt like if my blood sugar wasn't in my target range, that I was a bad diabetic, and I was failing, and I was gonna die because if my sugar wasn't in this target range, it was just gonna be back to the hospital. But yeah, don't kill yourself over trying to be this perfect diabetic with perfect blood sugars. There are tools to help with that, like CGMs and checking frequently and all that stuff. But to my knowledge, I don't think a diabetic's blood sugar range will be perfect 100% of the time. Number 2 also kind of goes in with number 1. Number 2 is that diabetes is different in everyone you meet, whether it be type 2 versus type 1, which is completely different. We don't even need to be on the subject of that, or just a type 1 meeting another type 1. Like one of my friends, if they eat a certain food, it affects their blood sugar different than when it affects mine. Or let's say they always feel their lows, whereas myself, I don't feel my lows until it's like in the 30s or something. And you just can't compare yourself to others in your diabetes because it's different. Like literally, there is no perfect diabetic, there is no set star diabetic. They're not the same. Number 3 is that sometimes it is just out of your control and you can't help it anymore. As growing up, I was diagnosed when I was 11, and when you're 11, you know, you're hitting puberty, and oh my god, puberty and diabetes do not mix. there were times where I would have sick days where I would be vomiting and having ketones out of the yin yang, and I just like we would be checking and taking insulin and more water, more water, more water, but it got to the point a lot of times where I couldn't help myself anymore and we had to go to the hospital. And that's okay, you know, like, it sucks because hospitals are expensive, but, you know, like, it's just the way it is sometimes. Number 4 is that there's always more to learn with this disease. I kid you not, like, I was diagnosed almost 10 years ago. Sorry, math is hard. But I, you know, like, I feel like I'm learning more every day. I mean, Lord, everything affects it, you know, and I'm sure people who have had diabetes for longer than I have, people who've had diabetes all their life, you know, like, one day something will change and then it'll affect their sugar and they'll be like, oh, why? And they're just like, I don't know, you know, and you gotta do tests on that, and yeah. So when I was writing this list, this is when I started to run out of ideas. But it's kind of funny, but it's also very true, and something that I think every diabetic can agree on is that you cannot eat the entire pantry of food when your blood sugar is low, no matter how much you want to. I know when I wake up, I have a whole bunch of juice boxes, and peanut butter crackers next by my bedside table, and I'll drink a juice, and then I'm waiting, and I'm like tired and dozing off, and I'm like, no, if I doze off, I'm going, I can't, I need to eat. So I'll run upstairs and like eat an entire thing of cereal, and then I'm like, I should have chips, I should have this, I should have that. And then the next thing you know, my blood sugar's back in the 500s and we're back where we started. But no, seriously, can't do it even if you want to. Number 6 is directed at 11-year-old me and all of the young diabetics out there, and maybe even me now, because sometimes I still don't want to do it. But you have to take your insulin, you know, and it seems so like they have to take their insulin, why wouldn't they, or else they die, which you're right. But when you're a teenager, or when you're hormonal or depressed, you just don't feel like doing it, or especially if your mom's like, take your insulin, and you're just like, I was going to, but now that you said something, I don't want to, which is annoying because it really is life-threatening. But please, guys, take your insulin. Like, I know some days you don't want to do it and you're done with this disease. I think we've all been there at least once, if not multiple times. But at the end of the day, it'll be okay. Oh my god. Okay, sorry. I'm reading off my list on my phone. But I think I've said this like 50 million times. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. But number 7 is you have to be your own advocate. I've learned this simply because, you know, in my experience, I have been to some hospitals that treat type 1 diabetes as type 2, where they don't give you the amount of insulin for your carbs, as well as your sliding scale and correction factor. And there are times where, like, younger me was just like, oh, I don't want to say anything because I don't, like, you know, they're doctors, they know what they're talking about. But then that would lead to me being in the hospital longer because I would eat And then my blood sugar would go back up, and they would be like, oh, well, your blood sugar's back up, you can't be discharged. Thankfully, as I grew older, I did get some people in my life that were, you know, advocating for me, but there also times where I'm in there like by myself, like when somebody's in the bathroom or whatever. As you become adult, you have to advocate for yourself anyway, but it is really important because nobody knows your body like you do. You have to buck up, and even though they are the doctors and they have a medical degree in this, you know your body. And you know how it reacts, and you know what your insulin dosage is, and yeah. I'm not saying tell your endocrinologist to heck off and you'll decide your own insulin ratio, but definitely speak up and talk to them about how you are feeling about it, and then you can decide to go from there. Number 8 is something that I still struggle with, but on good days I do understand. Number 8 is that even if you do end up in DKA, you're not a bad diabetic, even though it feels that way. There, again, in my past experiences with some hospitals, if I end up in the emergency room and the nurse or doctor or whoever is in charge of taking care of me, they'll be asking me about my symptoms and everything, and one of the questions almost always is, what did you eat wrong to make this happen? Or something along those lines, which personally I have cried over before. Maybe I'm just a baby, I don't know, but stuff like that definitely doesn't make you feel good, and I just want you to know that when you're in DKA, it's not something that you can help. Like, it's not your fault. That's what I'm trying to say here. I am not good with words at all. I feel like I'm trying to be very motivational with this video, and not doing it because I don't know how to portray feelings on camera without crying. Anyway, the 9th thing that I have learned over these past 9 years is that we're not alone. Gonna get personal here. Gonna try not to cry. Jeez. But, you know, I was 11 when I was diagnosed. And at the time, I was the only type 1 diabetic in our school county. And I felt really isolated for other reasons that I won't go into. But me and my mom had to teach the entire school board about diabetes, and all of my teachers from year to year about what to look out for in case my blood sugar's low before I realize it, or high before I realize it. And there are days, you know, where this disease can get really hard, and you feel really alone in this world, especially when you're the only person in your family that gets it. But I would, if you do feel alone in this community about being a diabetic, which seems so stupid to non-diabetics, but I would definitely recommend joining like some Facebook pages or whatever on Facebook or Twitter or even Instagram. It definitely helps just to talk to somebody and be like, you know what I'm feeling? And they'll be like, yeah, like I know exactly how you feel. and it makes it, I'm not gonna say that it helps like 100%, but it definitely makes you feel better. And I'm not saying that I'm the spokesperson of all diabetics out there who know other diabetics, but personally, it's helped me. Okay, I think I should stop, mostly because I've reached the 9th thing, and I don't know what else to say because I feel like I'm rambling. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new here, subscribe and comment and like. Let me know if you're also a diabetic or some things that you've learned, how many years you've had diabetes, if you do have it, or if somebody you know has it, that'd be cool too. Yeah, thanks. Tune in next week for a new video. I'll see you then. Bye.